Here's what happened, guys. In the early 2000s, there were a lot of sci-fi futuristic movies that came out with a common premise of a dystopian future. And I really liked these movies. And I didn't think too much about the commonality there until preparing for today's show. And when I looked back and I saw that, it got me curious. It got me asking questions because some of it didn't make sense. But it got me thinking whether or not this was a coordinated, intentional effort to prepare us, to get us familiar with the possibility of a dystopian future, and even guide us in that direction. And it's not crazy to say that when you understand more about the entertainment industry. And I'm going to share with you a clip later on from someone in the industry and them sharing their insights on this. Because when I think of an example like the movie Children of Men, came out in 2006. The premise is dystopian future. There is mass infertility and there are no babies. And so the movie follows one woman who is pregnant, and there's a group of people protecting her to guide her to the human project. And they go through twists and turns along the way, and I'm not going to ruin it if you haven't seen the movie for what happens in the end. But it's a movie I really liked. But I thought about today and how we have a fertility crisis here in the West, and how that it's not to that extreme, but it is interesting, that connection, and it gets you to start to question things. Then I think of other examples that I'll get into, like Hunger Games is another one that came out in 2012. Another one is District 9, if you ever watched that one, with aliens coming into Earth, and then segregation is a theme in that movie where these aliens are in their own area. And then another one is Elysium. If you haven't seen that, that came out in, I believe, when was that one? That came out in 2013. And that's Matt Damon stars in that one. And it's about how the rich are off planet in this utopia, and then there's the rest of us. So all of this gets me curious, gets me asking questions, and I want to take the time to build that out in this series. So welcome back to the show. Excited to have you here. Happy Monday to get the week started. I am excited to start a new series, which is a Small Business First series. And in this series, I want to focus on how we can make sure that small businesses are the priority moving forward, and how to push back against this dystopian future. Because I do believe that America's future leaders are small business owners, and by leading by example and uniting and moving forward, we can be reminded that we don't just have to adapt to the future, and especially with new technologies that are coming out like AI. And there's talks now of transhumanism, which was a theme in Elysium, the movie that Matt Damon starred in, to then thinking about how there's a massive inequality right now and the affordability crisis that we're experiencing here in the U.S. And I would say across Western civilization. It is not crazy to start to question things and determine was this intentional as a way to pre-program us, to prepare us for that future and guide us towards that inevitable future. And it's like advertising is how you can think about it in business terms, or even with life. The more reps you put in, the more something becomes a habit, and it can be beneficial for your life, or it can really be hurtful for your life. And we can think about that overall for our country, because there has been a lot of short term thinking that has created a lot of mess. And I go back to the U.S. national debt is over $38 trillion. We are now at war with Iran. The Gen Z is the most in debt generation for their age group in the history of the U.S. We have an affordability crisis. And so there's a lot of mess that we are having to clean up moving forward into the future. And we have to think long term. We must as a country. And as small business owners, we got to lead by example in that direction, and to focus back on moral values and making sure that we are not forgetting what is great about our country and preserving and fighting for what is beautiful, good, and true. It's important to take the time to recognize that we as small business owners don't just have to adapt, but we can shape the future. It cannot be lost. So what I want to do is I want to share a clip from a Joe Rogan interview. This right here, let me get it up for you. This is with Roger Avery, who is a director, screenwriter. He co-wrote Pulp Fiction, if you know that movie. I really like that movie. So let me get it up here so you can see this clip.
That's the revelation that
has to take, like, there has to be a person or some group of people.
Yeah, like about 8,500 people.
that are manipulating the Colbert Show.
They're manipulating everything. It's all an illusion. Like, reality as we know it is fake. That's the revelation.
So when you hear something like that, and especially someone that's in the industry, I mean, that for me gets me really curious, and it gets me asking more questions, and wanting to learn more about what is going on. And you may be feeling that as well, where things feel off right now. There is a lot of chaos that is out there. And I think of another movie like District 9 that, again, came out in 2009. The premise is dystopian future. It's based in South Africa, and there's a theme of segregation. And if you know anything with the history of South Africa and the apartheid, it was as I watched that, as I thought about that movie again when I watched it, I really liked the movie. But then I could see that theme coming up, and especially aliens being in their own district, District 9. And then I think about when that came out was in 2009. It was August 2009. Well, then in 2010, it was March 2010, there's a political figure, Julius Malema, a leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters. And in 2010, when he was part of another political party, he brought back the chant, "Kill the Boer." Now, doing research on that, it had been a chant that had been around in the 80s, 90s, and then it faded away after apartheid had ended. And then it started coming back in 2010. And it was interesting, the timing. It gets you curious and gets you asking questions as to whether or not there's any connection there. And what it means, when I researched it more with the Boer, where that pointed to was white South Africans. And it's something that is terrible to have race-based politics. Or to start to blame a group of people and focus on collective punishment rather than focusing on individuals and understanding and basing it off of their actions individually. And that's an important distinction that here in the West we have to push back on and be able to focus on the individual and their actions, and not have a son or daughter take responsibility for the actions of their parent or grandparents, or generationally what happened hundreds of years ago. That is something we must reject here in the West. And we've lost that in the West. And we have to reject that and bring back focusing on the individual rather than the collective. Because it's just morally wrong. And it gets you just questioning more about ways in which the ways that are used to divide us, the people. Because I've said it before, this movement is about the people versus the Epstein class. It is about families. This movement is about families versus the satanic pedophiles. This movement is about the America's future versus the globalist future. And when I come at it from this worldview of the powerful and the rest of us, and there's so many different ways that the powerful elite are trying to divide us, when we can wake up to that and realize what is going on in the game that's being played, then the power is lost from them. And we are able to gain back the power and recognize what is going on and unite and actually make meaningful change moving forward that benefits America's future and helps to make America's future a small business renaissance. And that's where we got to have this approach of small business first. And that goes back to understanding within your industry, where has the benefits gone to? And yes, we can all benefit within our industry, but also has there been a lot of priority focused on bigger corporations? And within that, where have there been unnecessary regulations put in place that creates bigger barriers of entry for small businesses to come in to the future? Or come in for being a part of the industry in the future, or where there's burdensome regulation that makes it really difficult for small businesses to continue to stay in the industry. When we can simplify the environment, then it can be a lot easier to handle the chaos that is going on around us, so that we don't then go towards the dystopian future. Because where that leads is massive inequality, poor conditions that we're living in. It becomes really difficult for being able to get energy. And then we could even have to resort to going into the transhumanism path, which we got to reject that as well. And that was something that showed up in the movie Elysium. that Matt Damon starred in, where it's a dystopian future for the premise. Earth is like a garbage dumpster, and then the rich ended up leaving Earth and going to this utopia off planet. And it's beautiful, incredible. Got amazing medical devices there. And so Matt Damon has a radiation accident, and he is desperate. He has a few days to live, and so he's desperate to get up to this utopia for the medical device. And so then he ends up merging with the machine, this machine that makes him incredibly strong and powerful. And then he ends up, the movie follows him on his journey to get up to this utopia. And I'm not going to ruin it for you. I haven't seen the movie. I really liked the movie. I thought it was great. But I didn't understand all of these messages that were going on behind the scenes, such as massive inequality, class distinction there. And then transhumanism is a theme in that movie. And so is that preparing us for an inevitable future like that, where we're just going to be living in filth and terrible conditions for the majority of the people? Or is it preparing us for this idea of we're going to connect to machine? That's being talked about right now. With thinking back to AI and chips, implanting chip in your brain, with Neuralink. Like, these are things that are being talked about right now. And so as small business owners, we just have to be aware of what's going on so that we can then help shape the future in a way that helps to make America's future a small business renaissance and helps us to improve the quality of life of all Americans. And that's really important to then be able to do that with focusing on moral values and bringing back a meritocracy is something that's really important for our society. Focusing on the individual rather than the collective, being able to work together and be united moving forward to move through the challenges that we're dealing with and the chaos that we're dealing with right now. And economically, one way that we have less poor people is we make energy cheaper. And we got to continue to figure out those ways to make that happen. But across industries, as small business owners, we have to step up and lead by example and be able to vocalize and share what is going on around us within our industries. And that's what I'm grateful for Roger Avery talking about and sharing the truth. It's important for us to continue to seek out the truth and then communicate the truth and really have powerful conversations. And one way we push back against going towards a dystopian future is we talk about what's going on. We wake up, we talk about what's going on, we figure out ways to unite and move forward. And we make sure that we're continuing to raise the quality of life over all of our communities. Because when small businesses are thriving, the quality of life of our communities improves. And so that is why with this series, it's going to be a focus on small business first. Where can we make that happen across industries? What areas like regulations to taxes? I'm going to continue to bring those things back in, as well as technology and different ways to differentiate in the marketplace moving forward as this series continues. So appreciate you guys. And appreciate the support with this movement. It is an incredible movement that is a powerful and exciting movement that is growing. If you are interested in connecting with other small business owners that care about this country, that love this country like I do, then you can join us on January 14th and 15th in Charleston, South Carolina at A Future Fest. You can check it out for reserving your spot at afuturefest.com. Excited to be able to connect with you in person there. And going to be sharing also the other cities that I'll be traveling to and being able to connect more with you in person for this movement. And again, it's a reminder that America's future is a small business renaissance, and as small business owners, we can unite to move forward and shape the future. So see you guys tomorrow.